Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight on the Northwest Fishing Club podcast. We've got a great episode for you tonight with our special guest, Nate Langlo from Stryker Rods. Nate's been traveling all over fishing this summer and is an expert on pretty much everything to do with fishing rods. So thanks for joining us tonight, Nate. Why don't you start us off with a quick intro about yourself and what your role is at Stryker Rods?
Yeah, guys, thanks for having me. Like you were saying, I do work at Stryker Rods. I do sales over there. I started off kind of back in the production area, rolling blanks, sanding blanks, building rods, that sort of thing. And yeah, I moved up into sales a little bit ago here. So finished rod sales, blank sales, we roll all around blanks at Stryker. So a lot of my involvement is blank sales. I travel, gone to Texas, Florida, we go all over. So it's been a pretty rewarding experience thus far. I'm getting to meet a lot of people and getting a lot of good feedback. So it's been awesome.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
It is.
How you been doing fishing when you've been traveling around?
When I can. Usually trips are pretty busy and packed with meetings and, checking other people's rods and what they're doing. But I tend to try to sneak out towards the end of a trip if I can manage. So there's been some good ones so far.
You mean Stryker isn't out there trying to sell the rods with all the pro staff while you guys are out on the road doing the selling?
I know. We need to. But between these meetings and getting home and jet lag, it can be tough, let me tell you.
Gotcha. Well, you been doing any fishing at home this week?
Yes. Yeah, it's been pretty good. Last Friday, we fished one of our local tributaries around here. They got some springers in it still. It's feels weird late August. You got these guys out fishing buoy 10 and you got guys fishing the coastal stuff, but there's still fish to be had around here. And you can still get a pretty nice cutting one if you want to put in a little work. So
right on.
Good day.
It's awesome. Todd, have you been fishing this week?
I have. I am actually sitting in my truck this week. I am fishing for some kokanee right now up in the high lakes, and we're doing really good. Seems to be a little bit later in the day. They get more short biting. But one of the things I noticed today with the Dodgers that I was running is they're wanting a bigger profile squid jig, but the size of Dodger that I had today wasn't giving it enough kick, and I shortened it right down. I think one of the leaders was 4 inches, getting it really tight to it and getting as much action as I could. But it's still that bigger hoochie was dampening that action. And so today I came into town and I bought some crappie jigs.
Nice.
And so I'm going to take off the squid jig because these are a lot lighter and a smaller profile. And so hopefully this gets more to the boat. We probably lost 20 kokanee today. And so, you're losing that many fish. We got 12.
Okay.
Got 12 to the boat. And so we're running right about, 50%, which, it's kokanee trolling. So 50% is, you're not doing too bad. But it's not where, we strive to up our numbers the best we can. And so I thought maybe these little, crappie jigs, I don't even know who made them. I just seen the color of them and liked them. They got a little silver sparkle in them.
They caught you, and now they just got to catch the fish, right?
Absolutely. And a lot of the guys that I talk to, everybody's having mixed luck. It's kokanee fishing. Everybody, you want to overthink every aspect of what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I'm, I really believe, scent is important, but I don't go out there with 20 different scents on any given day. It's been my experience this year that it's bait placement. It's where you are in the water column is far more important than any scent that you have. If you're not picking those, and I'm, a half an ounce on the lead, because we're long line and I don't have downriggers on the boats that I'm running right now. And so we're just using lead. A couple feet. Running? I run 6. If I have 6 people on the boat, I'll run 6. So I got to stagger them out. 70, 80, 90 as you go down the boat, and you try to get all the gear in that zone, but it's kind of a guessing game and it's kind of hard. But once you find that zone and they are wanting to bite it, I really think it's the action and where you put the bait. I do the shrimp scent, I'm a Procure guy, and so I use a lot of their stuff. And it is important, but man, where it is in the water column is by far the most crucial thing right now. So
yeah, got to put it where they are to catch them, man.
Yeah, and for whatever reason, it's a weird year, Nate. We start off at Odell, and you can see the schools at 60, 70 feet, wherever they are.
Oh, yeah. Well, I saw them when we were out there with you. They were everywhere.
Yeah, and you had to be at least 20 to 30 feet above them. For whatever reason, they're just wanting to chase everything this season. They don't want it right in front of their face, which is, kind of different as the year.
Almost.
I know it. And so you kind of just having to relearn everything this year. And then it's so hot.
Yeah, the heat's been a lot this year.
Yeah, and so hey, we got to change with the fish. You got to give the fish what they want. You can want them to bite what you want them. Absolutely, and I love the process. The guests are like, hey, when are we going to catch a fish? And you're like, well, the only information I have is what we did yesterday.
Well, it forces you to learn new things, really. So it's a win-win in my book.
And today was a prime example of I had two outfits working really well yesterday. One that worked a little bit better than the other one, and I had a gentleman and his daughter, and they're a little bit older, and so a woman on the boat, we're gonna get them the first fish every time, hands down. Yeah. Not my first day guiding. And dude, I put the killer on her rod that was just smacking it yesterday, and it was the other color. Jim caught.
Switched.
Oh yeah. And so and I have a one or two. I'm not changing everything around, but 3 to 0, I'm changing everything to that. That's a pattern. And so he had 3 in the boat before she even got a bite.
Oh,
I'm just kicking myself, and I'm like, hey, it is what it is. But they had a great time. Got to take home. So the cooking, they're so good eating.
Yeah, they really are.
And they're just a phenomenal fish for the table. One of the things that I fought for a really long time, and I'm not sponsored by them. I bought them outright because everybody was saying how great they are. Dude, I'm here to tell you, if you fish kokanee and do not have a fillet away fish mat in your boat, you are missing the mark.
Yeah.
Dude, it's one of the greatest. I thought it was a gimmick for years. They are that awesome. Dude, after filleting as many of them slimy things as I have, that it is well worth every penny. Absolutely.
Yeah. That's good to know.
Oh my God.
Todd Logan endorsed, right? It's a seal there.
That is. That's, I fillet a lot of fish, and it makes my life so much easier with that mat in my boat.
Okay.
So I was going to save that.
Somebody asked what size weight you were using for trolling?
4 ounces.
4 ounces?
So all the fish, yep. So right now I'm fishing Paulina Lake out of Lapine, Sun River. And so I'm 4 ounces, 70 feet setback. So that's going to put me right around that 40 to 45 feet, I think, is where, running 1.2 to 1.5. They're not really wanting any faster than 1.5. So I like to bounce right there, that 1.3 to 1.4. And then, it goes up and down as the wind catches the boat. And that's been what's been working for me. 3 ounces, you're going to want to run that out, 85, 90 feet. We'll get you into that 35 foot, tickling 38, 39 probably.
Nice.
So that's what I've been running. Nice. And it's really important if you're going to use that much lead on a kokanee, you want to put it on a sliding sinker. You want to put it on a slider. Yep. So as they fight, you want the rod to absorb that hit. You don't want them pulling against that sinker, and if you don't use a rubber snubber, and I do not use any rubber snubbers. So that is a big key to keep fish on is letting that line slide through that sinker.
Now, what kind of rod are you trolling around with that much weight? And the kokanee aren't super big, so what are you using?
I use my and Nate will have to tell you the model number. He makes all my rods. And so They make me, I believe it's a 711. I believe is the model number. That one is the model that I used. It's heavy enough to hold that weight, but light enough to let that fish fight and not rip the hook out.
Yeah, that would be the KDR 711 kokanee downrigger rod. So yeah, they work great. 7'11", light action, real nice for kokanee. Really, well, like you were saying, you don't have to use a snubber because the rod kind of will serve a dual purpose. And you get the right action in the rod, you're not losing as many fish. So they pair up nicely.
Absolutely. And the other thing I like for them is when I have my downriggers, that rod is heavy enough that I don't use a clip-on stop. I run shuttle hawks.
Nice.
And so I can clip that to a shuttle hawk and run it down my downrigger cable to the depth that I want. And then I just lock the reel in gear. And that rod is stiff enough that it will hold that shuttle hawk from diving any deeper than I want it.
Yeah,
that's why I run two different models on my kokanee rods.
Mm-hmm. No, it can be good.
One for the
couple of models in the boat, depending on what you're going to fish, for sure.
Absolutely.
Now, Nate, do you guys have pretty much like one kokanee trolling rod, or do you guys have like several? I mean, do people kind of have their own preference for it? I mean, I guess what.
So we've been working on a little bit of expansion in that line right now. Kind of our tried and true for a while. We had our kokanee 662, which was our jig rod. Guys are using them to troll a little bit. Not necessarily in downriggers, but a lot of just straight to leads, like Todd was talking about. Mm-hmm. And then from there, we have our downrigger rods, which are the KDR 711 and the KDR 903. The 711 one we talked about was 7'11", and the 903 is 9 foot. So a little bit of options, gives guys two lengths to get their spread out. We're planning on doing a little more expansion kind of as time goes on. We're just working on building up and perfecting the blanks before we ultimately release them. So
nice. Are you guys seeing the kokanee fishing taking off more in the recent years? Or is that still kind of just stayed steady?
No, it seems like a lot of guys are getting more and more into kokanee fishing. It's a real good thing to go out and do with, if you have young kids, family boat. A lot of guys with ocean boats that don't necessarily fish the rivers, they go out and fish the lakes for kokanee. So I would say it's definitely growing in popularity. People are starting to see it as, a really good table fare, a good way to stock up on some meat and have a lot of fun. I mean, they are pretty fun to catch.
And they're very plentiful. The lakes that do have kokanee, they're very plentiful.
Yes,
and so
good point.
You're not waiting. I mean, you are waiting, but there's opportunity there. You're engaged the whole time you're doing it.
And it's a good, healthy population of fish in most lakes to where you're not going to do any damage to the ecosystem. There's a harvestable amount. You're not going to put a dent in it. It's a sustainable fishery that is very well maintained and regulated. So it's definitely a good option.
Yes.
And they're pretty fast growing, right?
Yes, I believe so. Usually about 2 to 3 years. So,
and we're seeing a nice grade of kokanee this year. Everybody
bigger fish.
Mm-hmm. When you cut into them at the end of the day, it blows people away. They're as vibrant red as my tank top is. Wow. I mean, they're I think they're darker red than any springer that you catch by far.
Yeah, basically an ocean coho at that point.
Right. Yeah. And I don't think there's a better eating freshwater fish, to be honest with you, other than walleye. Walleye's pretty hard to beat, but
yeah, but
but we're
kokanee's got the flavor.
Guys.
Yeah,
that's right.
Have either of you?
I've never had to put.
Recently? We have. I have at least. We went
I
out.
have not.
There's a local lake which is we're in this area that I will not dare say the name of, but it does have a small population of walleye that we like to target into occasionally. So a few guys on here probably know what I'm talking about, but it can be fun at times.
Nice.
So you mean that's a fishery that if you don't know, you don't get to know? Is that the fishery we're talking about right now?
Well, I mean, you can know. Heck, I'll take you out if you want to, but
I do want that.
Well, let's see if we can make it happen.
But I've never had to put Frank's Red Hot on my kokanee.
There you go.
So
exactly.
There's that.
Touche.
On your main fishery, Todd, up there at Odell, you like to keep the kokanee rather than the lake trout, right? You think that they're a lot better eating?
Oh, by far, way better table fare. And so, and that's why we go out and get everybody, a couple meals in the morning. We're doing two things. It's one, we get to watch the lake trout when they start doing what we want them to do to where we can target them. That's when we switch over. But until that happens, we got to do something. Because some mornings it'll switch over at 6:30. Some mornings it won't switch over till 9. You really just don't know with how the day is going to be. And so it gives you something to do. And Odell is just such a unique fishery if you want to jig, you can jig for them. If you want to troll, you can troll for them. It really is. They don't jig anywhere else that I fish like they do at Odell and I don't know why. We use the same jigs, the same tactics, but for whatever reason, I think it's a population thing. There's just so many in Odell that the jig is just, man, when it's jigging season, it's pretty easy to put 40, 50 in the boat pretty quick.
Oh, yeah. You look down, there's scales everywhere, kokanee flopping. You got to stop and do a count. It can get hectic, hot and heavy quick. But
yeah, especially when the prison rules kokanee fishing is without a doubt, if we're not catching trophy lake trout, guys, they will ask if we can prison rules kokanee fish, and it's chaos. When they're boiling.
Well, there's nothing like that.
It doesn't
driving
matter.
Around, seeing those fish on the surface, that's really cool. That's akin to almost tuna fishing.
It's a lot of fun.
In the ocean. It's pretty intense.
Have you been out silver fishing out in the ocean this season yet?
No, I have not made it out. We made a tuna trip last weekend, but the coho season hasn't lined up for me this year yet. So I'm thinking I'll make it happen non-select. I think they just announced that. So got that set on my sights, but it's been pretty good when I hear early season, at least. Now it seems like the fish are a little bit more spread out. So
got you. Well, and you guys just come out with that line of tuna rods, right?
We did. We worked on a big expansion in our saltwater rods. So we took out our saltwater 604s, 704s, and the heavy saltwater 709s. It's all been proven pretty well in our testing phases. So those will be available soon. Did you get to put one of the tuna rods in your hand and make it happen? Oh, yeah. That 604, we trolled around with it all day. That thing is sweet.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Was it awesome?
Lightweight, but still strong enough to get those fish to the boat. Works the popper really well, works the divers really well. You can do a bunch of different things on it. It proved its worth.
Right on.
It probably caught about half the fish, so it was a hot stick. But I also put the best blown on it, so I was cheating a little bit.
Right. Well, I can't wait to get out there and try them.
Oh, yeah. We'll make it happen.
As soon as I get done, definitely a trip is in the – we'll have to run out and put some in the boat.
Heck yeah. I'm in. I'll show up with all the rods I got. A boatload of them.
All right. I'll show up with all the reels that I got.
There you go.
Only 2 work.
Yeah, we got a few.
After this season, I gotta rebuild a bunch of them after this year. They took a beating pretty good.
Yeah, it means they're doing what they're supposed to do, right?
Absolutely.
So what would you recommend, Nate, right now? Springer fishing or the tuna fishing? What was more fun?
If I had to pick something to recommend, I would start targeting fall fish, to be honest with you. I know that coastal stuff around here, the Umpquaw's been heating up. You see guys up north at Buoy 10, that's been really good. If you have the means, always go tuna fishing, but that's a little bit of a harder ask for some of the more less dedicated fishermen. So yeah, I'd probably start targeting fall fish. Think about fall fish, gearing up towards that, getting your trolling rod set up, getting your float rod set up, making sure you get enough eggs and, frozen herring cured up for however you like to fish. And that's what I would be focusing on. That's kind of my mind starting to shift to that too.
I see the guys at Gold Beach.
I was just going to say Gold Beach has been heating up a little bit.
Those guys they're doing good over there.
Yeah.
Yes, they are.
They had that tournament last weekend, I know, and that went out pretty well. So
yeah, I saw Chris Griffith post on Facebook the other day a video of a bunch of fish. His fish finder was completely stacked with fish, and then there was like 20 jumping at a time. It sounded like fishing was a little bit tough that day, but it's just absolutely loaded with fish.
Yeah,
dude. And the other one to keep an eye on is Steve Christler. I seen a picture that he posted the other day of some pretty impressive lingcod and rockfish. Yeah. He killed it. The salmon fishing gets a little bit slow. That's what's neat about that fishery. those guys will boogie out, and I mean, they are nice, a great grade of lean cod and rock bass out there.
Oh yeah.
So,
and you don't have to go far either, which is nice.
No, those guys. I mean, it's pretty neat fishery.
Hard to beat coming home with a lean cod, a salmon, and a couple rockfish in the same bag. Maybe a crab or two. You know, that's the best time of the year right there. Doesn't get much better.
No, and so you know, it's neat to see all the guys having success out there. You know that. You know, I mean, because everybody wants to take fish home. I mean, it's what we do. Totally. But you know, some years, and you know, hey, my first day here, I blanked. I didn't get any fish to the boat. And so, you know, I mean, it's important that people know as well that, you know, those days do exist. I mean, definitely. You know, we do not, you know, man, everybody's like, do you guarantee fish? I can't. You know, I mean, we just, because you never know what the day is going to bring you. You know, an absorbent amount of wind. I mean, there's just a lot of factors that go into it. And so it does happen, but, you know, those days are frustrating. You know, I mean, we never humbling. Like to come in blank. Yeah, it is very humbling. But hey, you put it in the rearview mirror, you tackle the next day like it didn't happen, and get back after it, and you know, it's hope that it's a better day.
Yeah, now you're catching fish, right? So it worked out.
Absolutely.
Nate, have you heard anything on your kind of more local rivers there for the fall salmon? I know a lot of the Oregon coast seemed like it might be shutting down this year. Just because they were expecting low returns. Have you heard anything more recently?
You know, yeah, that's one of our main rivers closest to our shop. The Sayuslaw is unfortunately closed this year, so we won't be able to fish that. So I think it's going to push a lot of guys south and a lot of guys north. You know, closest south, you have the Umpqua. I'm imagining that's going to get a lot of the pressure. The Coos system will probably see some guys bump down there. Waldport area, Alice, I'm expecting, and then further north from there. So I think, unfortunately, a lot of those guys are going to be seen a lot more crowded this year. So get to your boat ramps early if you plan on doing some serious fishing for sure.
Well, and you know, you see a lot of people. You know, I mean, yeah, there are more people doing it, but as a fisherman, isn't that a good thing?
Definitely.
I mean, hey, we're all looking for fish, and we all got to travel. You know, but you see a lot of the locals in these fisheries really getting down on any migratory fishermen coming in, and you know, there's a little bit of animosity, if you will, on traveling guides or you know, traveling fishermen because, you know, of the opportunities. Yeah. I look at it this way: hey, we're all using the resource, and that's a good thing. You know, we shouldn't discourage, you know, fisherman to fisherman, we shouldn't discourage anybody from enjoying the resource. You know, I mean, we gotta, and you're seeing more and more of it on social media. You know, that's the first thing the local guides, and sport fishermen, you know, well, they're all coming here. You know, they're all out of town license plates or whatever. And it's like, come on, man. You know, if there's not enough fish for everybody, get better at fishing. I mean, that's the reality of it. You know, I think places are going to get crowded.
One thing that's important to remember, though, as these people travel, do be respectful. You know, no one owns these rivers, but there are guys who've been fishing it for their whole lives. You know, simple things: obey wake zones. You know, don't cause scenes, don't yell, be respectful at all times. You know, these little things will make it so we won't have these problems moving forward, and everyone can get along. And I think I couldn't agree more. Bad apple can ruin it for the whole bunch. So
one of the best things that you can do if you're at a new fishery is pull out there in your boat and then just take 10 minutes out of your day and watch the natural flow of the traffic.
Yes, because every river is different.
Absolutely.
How they fish it, you know, taking turns, anchoring, it's all different. So
absolutely. And get to know how they're fishing in their local areas, and then adopt those processes into your repertoire.
Yeah, and then most of the time you'll fit right in.
Absolutely. They'll welcome you in with open arms. It's but you know, you always got the traffic police, you know, people worried about, you know, where everybody else is going. That's because they didn't take that 10 minutes to look at the natural flow.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's not about who's, and pay attention to the other fishermen. If I'm taking a kokanee off and you see my back down, unhooking a fish, get off of your track. And, because you're dealing with a lot of things.
Yeah.
And then, we give everybody else that same benefit of the doubt of, you kind of move around each other, right? Because, kokanee fishing, there is no natural flow to the traffic. It's just like this. It looks like that. And so you got to really pay attention. And then, who's running downriggers? Their setbacks are only 20 to 40 feet, typically. If they're not running downriggers, then those lines they could be 120 feet behind those boats. And so you don't dare just cut behind a boat, within 20 feet, because you're just going to tangle everybody up and then nobody's fishing.
Yes, exactly.
And so that seems to be the number one thing going on right now is, I don't think people do it maliciously. I really don't. I just don't think they understand what's going on behind the different boats because, they're just not paying attention to every aspect of every boat, like we do.
Mm-hmm.
And so, don't just take it as malicious. They didn't cut you off in your truck on the road. Don't take it personally. They didn't. It wasn't a personal attack on you.
Yeah.
And so
makes mistakes.
Absolutely.
If you're not familiar with a certain fishery, how does someone go about learning? I mean, each kind of system seems to have its own rules of the road. So how do you guys go about learning when you travel to these different places?
I mean, a lot of times if you're getting there the day before, you just sit and watch, right? I mean, you don't have to launch the boat always. I've done that before. You pull up, look at a jetty, look at a river, you just kind of see the lay of the land, like Todd was saying. Being observant is huge.
And then, I think that's a double question inside of itself, because a fisherman, if you fish like we fish, there's a lot of things that you just know. But somebody new getting into it, there's no better place than, like Nate said, go to the boat ramp as those boats are pulling out. Everybody wants to brag about what they caught. They will give you all the information because they want to pound their chest and toot their horn. And so they will give you a lot of the information. Some guys will be a little bit more standoffish, but you can see that in their body posture. If you're walking up and they won't acknowledge your presence, that guy's not going to tell you anything. He's got his secrets, and those are his secrets, and that's fine. But if I'm buttoning up my boat and you come up and talk to me, I'll show you exactly what I'm using. I've had to make bait more times this season already because I give so much of it away at the boat ramp because guys are not having success.
Yeah.
And they're doing everything right. It's just, they just need a little bit of help connecting the dots. Biggest thing I see is leader length past their dodger.
Leader length in general. I had the same discussion with the guy the other day up float fishing. I like long leaders regardless. Get it away from anything that might, not look natural. So that carries across the board for sure.
Well, and people don't like this squid jig here that I just bought. It says it has a 4-foot leader on it. Now, I kokanee fish a lot of places. I've never ran a 4-foot leader. I mean, the longest leader, behind a Dodger, the Dodger is two things. It's an attractor and it's the action. Mm-hmm. So the farther you get away from that Dodger, the less action you're going to have because it's moving farther away. So like I said, I've shortened my leaders to 4 inches at times, giving it as much kick as I can get to trigger that strike. And so I think the longest leader I run anywhere is maybe 12 inches on all of my kokanee stuff. Even behind my gang troll, the beer can style flashers is, I'm pinned right to it because they're coming to that. Yeah. And so I want my bait as close to that as I can get it. But hey, I mean, I might be missing the boat somewhere. This is just how I do it.
No, fishery dependent for sure. Granted, I don't get out and do much kokanee fishing, so.
Right. But I would say that's one of the biggest things is cut that leader in half.
Okay.
Shorten it right up. Get that action.
Yeah. Definitely.
And then watch it at the boat. Not all Dodgers out of the box are the same.
Tune them a little bit, right?
Go ahead and bend them. Don't be afraid to bend the hell out of that.
No, yeah, totally. See what you can do. Find a new action. Put a zigzag in it. What do you got to lose?
I think Yakima Bait said it, with the maglet, that skip beat action.
Yeah.
I mean, it's give it more action, man. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to hand tune your stuff.
No, definitely.
But I mean, I watch it at the boat when I drop the lead and the Dodger and the squid jig in the water. Because corn, that's why we all use shoe peg corn as well, because it's more uniform kernels.
Okay.
But you can put too big a kernel on some squid jigs behind a little bit of a smaller Dodger,
it'll mess
and
up the
you
action.
can see it damp. Absolutely. And so I'll put it in the water. If it's not moving how I want it to do, I pull it right out of the water, take that piece of corn off, and put a new piece on.
Yeah.
It's those little things will make a big difference.
Oh yeah, something a lot of guys wouldn't even do or think to do.
Right.
So.
No, it's just just going at that part. A little bit just going through the motions, and only one piece of corn per hook. That's it.
Yeah.
Any more weight, if you start stacking it up, the more weight you put on that squid jig, you're going to dampen that action again. And so, and then I mean, and rods. I mean, I hate to keep pounding this, but the reason why we all run as many rods, there's 30 rods in that boat, because every rod has a specific thing that it does, and that's all that rod does.
Mm-hmm.
You can do it with other rods, but hands down, you will be more productive with matching the rod to the type and style of fishing that you're doing, I believe.
Oh yeah. No, one analogy I like to use is, I mean, how many professional kitchens would you walk into and you see the chef using only one knife? Good luck.
No, that's a great analogy.
So having all the tools in your arsenal to do what you need to do and do it the best is, sometimes what makes the difference between catching some fish and catching a lot of fish.
Oh, for sure. And so that is one question, Nate. So, I mean, say a guy wants to get into kokanee fishing. Are you available? Will you walk them through the rods that they, the actions and the rods that they want to do their type of fishing? Is that a service that you guys provide?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're located here in Eugene. We recommend for guys looking at rods that are local, just come on and see us. Our facility is mainly production, but we're happy to give you a tour. We do have kind of a bit of an impromptu storefront going on there. So come on by and see us if you want to see how a fishing rod is made and how a blank is rolled, and feel all our blanks. Beyond that, if you're not local, just give us a call. We love to talk fishing. We do it all the time. Every day, guys are calling in being like, well, I fish this, I fish that. What rod would be good? So just calling in and talking to us is a good option to have that I think a lot of people don't realize too. So give us a call. We're happy to talk and walk you through it and find the best match to your needs.
Awesome.
So what is it about matching like the rod to the specific technique or the species? Is it just trying to get that different action on your lure, or I guess.
Yeah, a lot goes into it. I mean, the first question I'll usually ask people is, what rod length do you like fishing? Some guys like shorter rods, some guys like longer rods. Okay, I'd establish that. Do you like one-piece rods or two-piece rods? Most of our rods are two-piece. We do have a few one-piece, so if you like one-piece, we can definitely take care of you. Beyond that, it's kind of species specific. If you're fishing steelhead, we have a certain steelhead line. If you have salmon, we have a salmon line. And then application. So are you float fishing? Are you drift fishing? Are you throwing hardware? That's generally kind of where I lean into. And then from there, it's just filtering down results. And usually you'll end up with 2 or 3 options, kind of depending on length, or if you want a heavier power or a lighter power. And then it just comes down to personal preference,
Now, do you guys so if somebody was super experienced and coming to you and said, this is the exact kind of rod I want, what happens if you guys don't have that kind of rod? Is it something that you are able to custom make something for somebody like Todd if he needed a specific rod?
Yeah.
Or
So as I touched on before, because we're rolling our own blanks, you really have a lot of control over the whole process. So R&D and blank development is a huge part of what we're doing. A lot of times guys will come to us and they'll be like, oh, I want this kind of rod. And I see you guys don't have it, but you have something close. Can you potentially make something? And a lot of times what we'll do is see how many people are wanting that sort of interest and that sort of rod. And if we get enough interest in it, we have no problem adding it to our lineup. Usually you're looking at about a 1 to 3 month process to roll the blank, test the blank, turn into a rod, test the rod. So we do a lot of R&D. Sometimes you're looking at 3, 4, or 5 different models before we settle on it. But yes, we have done that in the past. As we continue to grow as a company, we definitely want to bolster the lineups we already have and continue to add to them. So always open to suggestions, always open to feedback from guys that have fished our rods. And it's kind of what helps us grow as a company. So
is there a limit to how many kind of rods you guys can make? I mean, isn't there?
not at this point in time. We're making, all sorts of sizes. And, from our saltwater stuff, they're 8, 9 feet long and 1/4 inch thick walls all the way down to our light, inshore speckled trout blanks that are, just over an ounce of weight for the whole blank weight. So we have a pretty good range what we can do. We're lucky to have the tooling we do. A lot of different mandrels means a lot of different types of, rods and blanks to be made. And also the different types of material really open it up as well. We're working with 6 or 7 types of material right now. So having that ability to switch, add, do blends and stuff it's huge.
So what's the difference between all the materials? Is it flexibility, softness?
Yeah, it depends. A lot of it is, a lot of the old school guys will know fiberglass rods. They're very limber. Noodly is a word that gets thrown around a lot. So a lot of what you're seeing nowadays is blends, carbon fiber and fiberglass to kind of get the best of both worlds. A lot of our salmon steelhead, we tend to roll with, we call it an intermediate modulus blend. And then we also have a high modulus. So the intermediate modulus would be more your run of the mill. It runs a little cheaper, a little more durable, and then high end stuff, high modulus. So it really just depends on what you're looking for. If guys want something very, very durable, very, very tough, intermediate modulus is a great option. If you want high end, lightweight, crisper action is what we like to say. It's just a little sharper in the tip. You get a little more of a rebound on it than you would. So yeah, lots of different options for sure. It can be hard really to nail it down until you roll it and feel it. A lot of it's feel. Just guys will have preferences and what they like. Blank weights, a lot of it, depending on what you're rolling it out of, heavier, lighter. There's really endless amounts of options. As far as rod weight.
How it feels in my hand? Weight?
Yes, exactly. So fiberglass will be heavier than, say, a carbon blend or something like that.
Right.
It's got more of a higher resin content in it.
What are the trade-offs? So if I want a more durable rod, what's the trade-off to a more of a high modulus rod that's going to be a little bit quicker?
Durable is going to be heavier. It's going to be heavier in their hand. That's pretty much one of the main drawbacks, I would say, or advantage, depending on how you're looking at it. A lot of guys don't care about weight. If you have rods that are mainly staying in the rod holder and you're not fishing in the hand all day, it could be a great option to go with something a little tougher and your hand's not going to get tired. If you have a lightweight steelhead rod that you're fishing in the hand all day and making, some 400 or 500 casts, you want that lightweight, as light as you can get because, it can wear on you after casting that much.
It does. Sitting, no different than the lake trout, jigging 4 and 6 ounces all day at 150, 180 feet. If you're going to feel it at the end of that day, because we're working those all day long.
Mm-hmm. And those rod models you're using, those are the SN 967s, and those are all, like I was saying, lightweight carbon blends. Those are exactly what we're doing with those. Sanded, keeping everything as minimal as possible, high end.
Yep. And then and I like a more, you said more of a moderate action. I like to fight fish. You remember that rod? I think it was 2 seasons ago that prototype that you brought up.
Yeah,
we got that big fish on, and it's like, no, I don't want that rod anywhere. I mean,
a lot of guys think as quick as you can get it to the boat is the goal, right? But in this case, that is not what you're looking to do.
And for us, we want to stage them up, and that rod, it just, you could yard 20 pounds with that rod. Pretty effective.
Oh yeah, we got guys. That's a trolling rod down in Gold Beach now. We redeveloped it, so they're using it to catch those 30 and 40 pounders I see. They're posting pictures of every day.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you're fighting
done,
seals.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, down there, you want that fish to the boat as soon as you can because you're fighting seals, boat traffic. I mean, there's a lot going on to where the shorter you can get that over with, the better chance you have of getting it to the boat.
And that's a very unique rod in itself that I'll touch on a little bit since you brought it up. That is actually a one-piece rod that has a carbon fiber butt blended into a carbon fiberglass hybrid tip halfway through the rod. So in the baking process, we actually lay in material and overlap it. So there's a small section of overlay. But after that, it's, you know, you're kind of getting the best of both worlds of that rod. You're getting a real sensitive, your fiberglass tip that the guys like, but you're getting the strength of a carbon fiber butt. So that's a pretty unique one that we've been doing lately. That's a lot of guys are very, very happy with.
Yeah, it is an awesome rod for sure.
With those blends, do you notice any kind of, I don't know exactly the word I'm looking for, but like where that connection is that like ever a weak point in those blends? Or is the rod pretty strong throughout?
It's pretty strong throughout. I mean, every blank we test, we break before it goes even to a build stage because we want to know where it breaks and what pound it breaks. This one varies where it breaks. Most of the time it'll break below the bend, kind of in the normal high stick, upper 2/3 of the rod. Those blends get pretty strong. When they get baked in our ovens, the fiberglass will flow throughout and it actually becomes one, piece. There's actually not really a joint there anymore, so to speak. So it's pretty impressive what can happen when you bake it for a few hours for sure.
Now, Todd, we had a question for you from chat. What is the biggest killer for the lake trout bite? Is it caused by weather or is fishing pressure a greater cause?
I wouldn't say fishing pressure, just because the way those fish feed, really, fishing pressure is really not going to play a big part of it. It's definitely weather. And right now during their, they're in their spawn mode and they don't want to feed when they're spawning. I mean, They literally get lockjaw. Not to say you can't catch them. Keep in mind when I say, we target trophy lake trout, and so I can go to Odell and catch 4, 5, 6 pounders right now. That's just not what we're after. And jigging like we do, you'll see 40 feet of Mackinaw stacked up on a mat, and they do not want to bite. And so 2 things. One, we don't want to bother them while they're spawning. We want them to do their thing, leave them alone. And 2, if we can't get a trophy, if we're having a really hard time getting a trophy, I turned down a number of trips, probably 35, 40, that I don't personally think that you have a chance because you have gear in the water, but I don't have a lot of confidence in being able to deliver what you're buying. And so I just tell people, I don't want to take your money for this trip. Trolling, you're going to catch fish. There's enough fish to where you're going to get them. It's having the electronics to see where they're at. And then when you do see them, understanding what they're doing when you see them. There's digesting fish that they're full. They're not going to bite. You have to really entice that fish to bite. Both of you guys have been on the boat. I mean, Nate's been on the boat more. There's some of those fish that we jig at 15 minutes straight. Yeah. And you can see on the Panoptics, he's not leaving.
Because they'll still look at it. They definitely still have that instinct like they're hungry, but they physically, I don't think could fit another bite in their mouth, I think is a problem.
No. And, but then
usually those ones mark dark too because they're so full and those look really big. So it's kind of a double-edged sword on both.
Yeah, the mark is you can't. It's not exact science, but it's a big dense mark. And so right now, kokanee is lake trout here. Middle of September to the end of October, I would fish the shallows. you want to be up in that 20 foot of water because those fish are feeding on the spawning kokanee that are just kind of hanging out in the shallows, either waiting to go up the creek or spawn and come back in the lake, getting ready to die. That's easy food for them. And so they're up in the shallows, and there you want to just anchor your boat and kind of blind cast. Because if you get right in there on top of them, they're already threatened because they're not in their prime element of deep water. And so you'll spook those fish.
Got it. Stealth approach.
And if you know, I mean, you guys, if a fish can see you, or if you can see a fish, he can see you.
Yeah, he probably already saw you.
Exactly. But that's just what I think. So
with the weather being more dominant, is there a time, like, or a weather pattern that, I guess the question for both of you, is there a weather pattern that you guys see where the bite is better, or a weather pattern that you see that turns off the bite?
Say,
yes and no.
Try not to fish before big storm fronts is always good rule of thumb. Post storm fronts seem to be better for me. But Todd would probably know, at least Mackinac specific, more about that than I would.
No, that's right on the money for what we do. That's what's hard about the Odell season is you never know when those storms are coming through.
Mm-hmm.
And so that does play a part on it.
Yeah, you guys had a bit of a stormy season up there to begin with, huh?
Oh man, I was so done with, and now that it's 100 degrees, I wouldn't mind a little skip of snow. You know,
how many feet of snow up there when the first day you were supposed to start?
5.5 feet it dumped.
Yeah,
in a day and a half up there.
It's quite a bit.
It was brutal. I'm glad my boat wasn't up there because I mean that, you know, that's a lot of snow to clean out your boat. Yeah, I mean we cleaned a lot out this season, but yeah, it definitely is the storm fronts. But in saying that, I'm a fisherman. When I want to go fishing, I go fishing.
There's always exceptions to the rule. Always.
Absolutely. And so I really don't, you know, moon phase, storms, it all plays a part. But when I want to, like I said, when I want to go fishing, we just load up and we go fishing, you know, but we're out there because we love it. You know, we love being outside, and then you never know when you pick up on that one thing and it works. And next thing you know, you'd be fishing every storm front that comes through because you're just killing it. You found what the little niche that it took. Because look how it's progressed.
I kind of found something similar with that with the springers here on the Upper Rogue. You know, whenever we get those, especially like June, July, we get those thunderstorms moving through. They switch from switch from an egg bite to a plug bite. So you get that thunderstorm the night before, you go out the next day, and they're more likely to be smacking plugs than they are to be taking a back bounce bait. Just for whatever reason, you know, it just kind of changes that bite, that pressure changing a little bit. Something about it.
I think it just makes them agitated, a little bit more aggressive.
Yeah, something about it. But I always notice that, you know, you get that thunderstorm moving through, and then they would be on a plug bite for whatever reason.
Got you. And one of the things that go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I seen a guy packing a rod out of the store, and one of the things I'm really excited about, Nate, is the nearshore rods that you just come out with.
Yes.
Those are, you know, I got a hold one here not too long ago, and that rod, how's it out there fishing for the rock bass and the lingcod? Because it looks like pretty light tackle from the standard of what everybody else is doing, right?
Yeah, you know, guys pick it up and it's such a lightweight rod, you think lightweight tackle, but it can do more than guys think. I mean, we're outfitting those on charter boats and guides. They can be abused. Once again, it's a blended, unsanded rod, a little tougher, but definitely a very versatile tool to have in the arsenal for sure. We got a couple different lengths, most of them coming in right at 6'6", so short. You don't have to worry about getting crowded on the boat or having a long rod out there whipping it. So they're pretty sweet.
Well, and I like feedback. For those fish out there, you know, the shorter rod is a lot nicer. One, if you're gaffing your fish, it's easier. If you're net, you know, the 8-foot rod, you know, is a little bit farther out, so you don't have to have as long a handle on your net, you know, because some of those lingcod, you get them, you know, those 36, 40-inch fish. That's a lot of fish to be moving around, and then, you know, getting it to the rod. Now you're high sticking clear over as the 6'6". You know, you're right there putting the hammer down on him. Yeah.
Why do a lot of the charters typically run those heavier rods, the meat sticks? You know, I've been out with Andy Martin out of Brookings, and he runs a lot of this, lighter tackle. But then you go out with like some of the other big charter boats, and they always run the meat sticks. You know, that seems to be the typical rod that everybody runs when you're out there bottom fishing. Why is that? Do you know?
Yeah, a lot of guys run those big meat sticks because it's kind of the do-it-all rod. You know, you can fish a light rod and do what you're supposed to do, but it's a lot more likely to break if you go heavier. But if you're fishing a heavier rod, you can fish light stuff just fine, and you can fish heavier. So, in my opinion, it's honestly just a durability thing. Maybe guys aren't willing to outfit their boat with multiple lines of rods. They want one line that can do it all. So if you're looking for that, yeah, a meat stick, you know, it's not going to be as fun or enjoyable for your clients, but it will get the job done.
I would agree with it's cost and durability.
Yeah.
It's the, you know, I've been on a lot of charter boats, and yeah, I mean, it's a meat stick rod, but you know, I mean, but in all fairness, people go out there it's a meat hunt that people are going out there.
Yep.
You know, it's
not fishermen, not people who are there for the fight. They want to catch fish, go home with fish, see the fish being caught. So,
yep. They want to go
we
home
do
with
offer
a bag
that
of
option.
fish.
You know, if you want a meat stick, we can make a meat stick for sure.
Oh, absolutely. You know, but I think that's why they use those, is because when you, I mean, when I you know, go out on a charter boat, I'm just going out there to kill fish. You know, I just want some great table fare. You're going to go out there for 4 hours, hammer your limit, and you're back in. Sport wise, that's your smaller 6-pack boats. They're going to have more of that specialized gear, because they are fighting. You know, they want to fight the fish as well as take home a bag of meat. But typically, those trips are going to cost you a little bit more money because of the cost that it takes to provide that trip.
Yeah,
you know, that's why, you know, cattle
smaller
boats,
crews, more of the share.
What we call cattle boats, you know, the big charter boats are, they are. It's just a solid meat hunt because, you know, playing a fish, if you got a guy 6 feet from you, that fish is going to get around, tangle up rods. Mm-hmm. There's a lot that goes into why they run those rods. You know, it's just not as simple as what we, you know, as sport fishermen, you know, what we like is, you know, we're all pretty much, we are in it for the fight. You know, some days they win, some days we win. That's why I don't get upset when I lose a fish. I tip my hat to him, and hey, some days they win. And that's okay. You know, but I'm a sport fisherman. And so, you know, it's not about success to me is not in the kill bag.
Yeah.
It's about the experience.
Yep. I agree.
Curious, Nate, Todd and I, a couple episodes ago, were talking about our hook to land ratio and kind of been down this year, it seems like. Have you noticed anything like that this year?
Not this year. That's been a problem for me in the past, but this year it seems like, I don't know if it's because I'm making the most of the times I get out or what, but I've been doing all right. I mean, now that you ask me that, I'm sure it's going to plummet, so I'll knock on some wood here. But I went all right. I think I went 6 for 7 the other day when we were stringer fishing on our tributary, so decent.
It's not bad at all.
No, not bad at all.
And when you say tributary, Nate, is that like an hour from you, 45 minutes, hour and a half?
No, so if you know anything about the topography of Eugene, it's not much of a secret. We got the Willamette flowing through and we got the Mackenzie flowing through. So I was on the upper Mackenzie the other day doing a little float fishing. So he got it out of me.
How long
goes against my instinct.
It was only a matter of time.
Yeah. How long is that?
What was that?
Mate?
That's a long one. I mean, a lot of guys right now are kind of discrediting it. Although I will say it's to get a busier August than I've seen it the past few years. But I mean, beginning of spring, those fish will start trickling in. You see, you know, dam counts, April, May start kicking off. And then really beginning of June, late May, it's going good. And then kind of tailing off into July and August when it starts to wind down. But it'll fish through August. Like I said, if you don't mind weeding through some fish, maybe getting a little bit low of a cut grade, but you're getting some eggs in return possibly, it can be a good option that's close to home to go drain a float and feel a tug.
Nice. What are your guys' numbers like this year? Has it been up or down?
Yeah, it's been good. It's been up. Yeah, we kind of were a little concerned this year. We had our big Mackenzie River fire 3 years ago. So this would have been in the year that we would have seen the largest effect. But thankfully, the run return has been good. It's been what it was projected plus a little bit. So we're pretty happy with it. Seeing a good return, a lot of wild fish around. So that's good to see always. And a decent amount of summer steelhead. You know, it's kind of hard to say because we haven't really had much of a summer steelhead run in this neck of the woods for the past 4 or 5 years. But this year was a little bit of a push in the right direction. So fingers crossed it's a trend that will continue.
Seems like summer steelhead numbers have been up around the Northwest. You know, down here.
I'd agree. It seems like
run.
Yeah.
So
I can't catch them, but
they're there. Yeah, I can't either. I haven't got one this year either, so I'm in the same boat as you. Although I don't target them as much as I target my springers for some reason. I just kind of leave the summers alone, let them do their thing.
A bit of a springer snob.
You could say that. I've been called that.
I typically like.
I love winters though. Well, I think it's because of my love for winters. I mean, if I had to pick one fishery to do, it would be winters. So I don't know.
For me, I think it's weather. It's the size of the fish. You know, the winters they're bigger, more aggressive fish. The weather, I love fishing in the rain.
Yeah,
you know,
rain
just
and cold, so much nicer.
Yeah, it just when I think of steelhead fishing, I think of fishing winter steelhead. You know,
oh yeah. Well, some of the best days we have are raining sideways or snowing. So
right.
Kind of the opposite of what we're saying about our storm front later, but winter steelhead don't count. They're their own beast.
Yeah, no, they're their own entity. They don't abide by anybody else's rules.
Yeah, exactly.
And use whatever you want as long as it's pink.
Yeah, fair enough. You know,
pretty much.
I think of anything that wouldn't work or anything I haven't seen at this point. Just when you think you've seen it all,
right?
You got your long-haired buddy fishing gummy worms for him. So,
is that what Alex is using out there? Are you talking about Alex?
I meant more of a addicted friend.
Oh, okay.
I don't think that. I mean, hands down, he's one of the fishiest dudes I've ever met. I mean, that guy, he can catch a fish, and it doesn't surprise me that he could get one on a gummy worm. It really doesn't.
You don't know unless you try, right?
Absolutely.
So we do that sometimes. We'll bring out rods from the shop and be like, well, let's see what the weirdest thing we can catch on this rod is today. And we'll just put all sorts of stuff on it. And then if someone gets something really cool on it, we'll bring it back and tell everyone and pin it on the wall. So we definitely like to experiment around here.
I put my kokanee rods in the boat to catch steelhead on plugs last year.
Heck yeah.
We're constantly doing that stuff. And yeah, I mean, it's just
you never know. They might work perfect. You know, you don't know until you try.
It's they do whip a fish pretty fast. Oddly enough, the action of that rod, they never stop fighting and exhaust themselves pretty quick. It wasn't, you know, I figured we were going to go down 3 or 4 holes, but no, they come right to the boat. And so, yeah, not the fight that we're looking for. But you know, we'd never do it with guests in the boat, you know, because you're at an unfair advantage. But I know what they can do. Absolutely. I mean, we constantly put our rods to the test with everything that, you know. I mean, just people fight fish. Everybody fights fish a little bit different, and that's one of the things that I can say about my Stryker rods is. We put them through every test that you can put them through, from banging off a boat to high sticking to, you know, I've seen guys grab the rod mid rod and yard that fish over. And, you know, again, they don't do it maliciously. They're excited and they want that fish to the boat. And so they're doing whatever they think they need to do to get that fish to the boat. Yeah. And so, knock on wood, the only rods that I have broken are kokanee prison rules.
Yeah,
you get
jigs flying through the air.
You get one guy jigging, another guy casting, and I don't care what you have in your hand. If you sail a 1 ounce jig through a rod, it's not gonna
game over.
I'll tell you who wins, and it's not the rod.
No, they're pretty tough, but they're not jig proof. You know, we make them the fish, so.
And then, and we don't net those fish. They
No.
go from the water, you swing them into the boat. I'll swing kokanee in the boat with my trolling rods.
Yeah, totally.
They'll swing those fish. They're Odell had a great grade of kokanee this year. A lot of 14 to 16-inch fish, and you can boat those without netting them as well. Because things get hectic. You got two already in the net, and then another one's on. You're like, swing them into the boat. It is.
Yeah,
what
you
it
hook
is.
to the net. You're hooking. Pretty soon, you're unhooking the net. You're unhooking the fish. It's just a headache.
It's chaos, and so it definitely is. They're worth the money if you take care of them. Like all my rods riding rod socks.
Yeah.
When I'm traveling, that's a big key. The laying them in the bed of your truck, letting beer bottles and cans and everything bounce off of them. That's you gotta, you have to take care of your rods.
Yeah. Well, they are an unsanded, uncoated blank. So yeah, it's a bit of a, you sacrifice weight, you get a lot more sensitivity out of it, but you got to treat them right. You got to take care of them for sure. But that being said, they weren't designed to sit in a garage. Go out and fish them hard. They can take it for sure.
Absolutely. My back bouncing rods, we back about 8 ounces, and those rods are rated to 2. We really use these rods to an unfair level, I would say, as far as what we do. But that blank gives me the better fight of those salmon than a stiffer traditional back bouncing rod.
Yes, definitely.
And so it's for how I like, a couple of the holes that we back bounce, those stiffer rods, it picks that sinker up a little bit too quick, and then you get into that faster water off the bottom, and so you're jumping over fish. So I personally like a softer rod, because you've got to really pick it up, and then maybe that sinker's coming up a couple inches, and then you're right back down. You're not yarding up into the fast current every time that guests typically do with a stiffer rod.
Yeah.
When you guys talk about ratings, Todd, you're talking about rated for 2 ounces. Nate, so if somebody picks up a rod that's rated for a 10 to 20 pound line, 1 to 4 ounces, how do you guys determine that?
So that's kind of a tough question to ask. Line ratings and lure ratings, if I had to guess, are going to start to become a thing of the past. Like Todd said, most people aren't fishing the range it's designed to. A lot of people go over it. We tend to be pretty conservative. We find that it's better to underestimate than overestimate. So we'll bump it down a little bit. Lure rating, line rating, kind of hand in hand. Line rating was originally designed when guys are fishing mono. So they want to know their break strength, their mono, what they can fish on their rod. Most guys I know nowadays are fishing braid. So that line rating, while it still applies a little bit, is kind of a tough thing to navigate at times, because ultimately, 80-pound braid, 60-pound braid, most times it's not breaking to 100-pound anyway. So, and all our steelhead guys, they're all fishing 30-pound braid. So I would say the main thing to focus on is action and length, and just what you like to fish and how you like to do it.
Well, and, in saying that, our drags, if you come fish with me and you're new to my boat, the first thing I tell you is, please do not touch my drag.
Mm-hmm.
Because we overweight these rods to an unfair level. Where we balance that out is in our drag.
Yeah.
So before you're going to bottom that rod out and risk a failure, that fish is going to be able to take line.
Yeah.
And so once you're on the boat, then, I say that. And then as you fight a fish, I tell, you can adjust your drag wherever you want.
Mm-hmm.
And, but people pretty much know, I've already explained to them why the drag is set where it is and all of that, to where they're like, all right, I don't, you remove that thought in their head. They got to, everybody wants to tighten the drag, because my Stryker rods, if you pull the drag out, you're like, oh, that's loose.
Yeah.
And it's not, because the rod is absorbing all of that. You got to pull twice as hard with the rods that we use, because the rod's absorbing all of that hit.
Yeah,
And
people
so,
don't give enough credit to the reel. I mean, the reel's doing almost as much as the rod's doing, and pairing it
absolutely
up is huge. And having it set right is also huge. So
yeah,
I would definitely agree
and
with
so that's how we get away with overweighting all those rods is with our reels. And so there's a balance.
Definitely.
Makes sense. There's a question in chat for you guys from Cody. He said, I recently bought a Stryker CT 944 and it's awesome. I've already pulled some nice lake trout in with it, but what would you recommend for a stout lake trout jigging rod?
So I would say the SM 967 or the SM 965. Todd, I know you have both in your boat. I believe your light rods, the 965s, you're running 1 to 4 ounces on those, and everything above that, you'll switch over to the 967s.
Yes,
those are
absolutely
tried and true. They'll work great for you. Great feedback from Todd and a couple other guides that like them a lot. So I would say that'd be your best bet.
Your bigger Bondi baits, and the reason being is hook set.
Yes,
is when because you're vertical jigging, you're not scoped out. You're straight down.
Mm-hmm.
So that changes the dynamic of your typical rod, of what we're accustomed to fishing like.
Yeah,
and so the 965 with a 6-ounce jig, we can, but I mean, it's harder to get that penetration that we want because it's doubling over, and so that's why we go to the 967s. Like Nate said, it's tried and true. It's the only rods that I use. I carry both in my boat, because it's weight specific. We can do both. We can fish everything with both of those rods, but we have to maximize on the opportunities that we get. And so that's how we do it is we get specialized rods for those areas.
Yeah.
But that is hands down the 2 rods. If you want to jig lake trout, those are the 2 rods that you want.
Yep, they're both coming in at 9.6. Very, very similar blank, like Todd was saying, just a 5 power and a 7 power. So one's a heavy, one's a medium heavy. So depending on what you're planning on fishing, one of those will take care of you.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a reason why you like the 9-foot rods, Todd, over something shorter?
Yes.
And that is?
I'm just messing with you. For me, it's the action. I get the action. I get that more of a moderate sweeping action that I want because we catch and release our Lakers, that it lets the fish roll, because those fish aren't going to scream away from your boat. They're just going to roll, and so that's why we use the top shot of mono, so they're not in our braid. And then you want that nice sweeping moderate action to absorb all of those big rolls that they do.
Mm-hmm.
And then, it's really important if you are catch and releasing that you want to stage those fish, 60 feet, every 30 feet, let them burp and get reacclimated if they can. And so that's, it's the perfect balance for us in not harming fish to release them, by letting them exhaust themselves to where they come up on their terms, not by our terms.
Not to mention the acrobatic maneuvers that they put you through. I've seen a couple times the old shimmy around the motor maneuver. It can be nice to have that extra length if the fish decides to make a last-minute run the direction you weren't planning on it going, or if you're hooked up with multiple fish, getting them spread out.
It does. It gives us a little bit of spread. We get a lot of doubles and triples, and so it keeps our fish a little bit more separated.
Yeah, for sure.
But absolutely, you got to get around that main motor. And then me, I'm 180 pounds, 5'10", not a real big guy, but you need a longer rod to get over and around me as well, because it can get chaotic.
Definitely.
But that's why I like the longer rods, is the little bit of a spread, fish fighting ability. They absorb the hit very well. And I'm here to tell you that rod, I love to tell Nate that I take care of my rods, but he's been in my boat. He's seen my rods, And those rods,
They're loved.
I'm here to tell you, they are very well used, because, you know, when those big fish take a run, you know, you'll bring them up from 140 feet, you'll get him up to 80 feet, and then he's going back down to where he started. And I don't know how many times they'll yard that rod. There'll be 2 guides of that rod out of the water. That's it.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they just pin right down. The rod hits the side of the boat. It happens.
Like a freshwater lingcod. I mean, they're feisty. Give them more credit than. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And so, you know, that rod is it's going to take the abuse to a certain level. You know, there's enough of that's going to happen. That rod, every time a rod hits your boat, look at it, think of it like a bruise. Is that fair, Nate? It's fair. Like a bruise on your arm or your leg. Mm-hmm. Every time there's just more bruise, and those bruises never go away. They don't just miraculously heal themselves.
You have a tight weave of fibers, so each time you hit, the fibers will become more and more spread apart, where over time you'll get a weak spot there. You know, you might not notice it the first time, you might not notice the second time, but years down the road, months down the road, fish down the road, you're going to find out eventually.
We're going to get a failure. And, you know, that's the one thing that I tell everybody. If that rod doesn't break on the first fish or the first snag, if that rod breaks after those 2 things, you broke that rod.
Yeah.
That's a manufacturer defect is going to show up immediately in those 2 things. And after that, that rod got bruised, and it may not have got bruised on that trip. It could have been bruised 4 trips over. Nate float fishes a lot. How many times have you reeled and set the hook and hit a branch above your head?
Yeah, it happens.
Because I know you guys fish from the bank a lot.
Yeah,
and
so some tight quarters for sure.
Even that will bruise a rod. Is that correct, Nate?
It is.
Definitely. So because you already got that rod loaded up, so it's already under tension, and then it hits another thing solid. It's got to do something.
Yeah, that energy's got to go somewhere. It gets absorbed into all those little fibers. So.
How do you guys handle warranty situations on that, Nate? And I guess what is your warranty for the Stryker?
So we have what we call a limited lifetime warranty. So any sort of manufacturer defect, you know, how it breaks and where it breaks tells us a lot about what happened. If it's your first time out and it breaks, you know, of course that we'll replace that. 99% of the time it's going to be a manufacturer's defect. That being said, those are pretty rare. We test our rods extensively before they leave the factory at multiple different stations and ways. So, but at the bottom line, we like to take care of our customers. We like to give everyone the benefit of the doubt. If they say, so, hey, there's something funny happened, or explain it, we'll take care of you. Beyond that, if, you know, the car door eats your tip, the dog gets hold of the butt and chews it up or something like that, you're looking at a $175 replacement fee. We call that our Blue Streak warranty program. So it definitely lessens the blow a little bit, you know, if you're not buying a whole new rod. And that's only in the case you need a whole new rod. I mean, a lot of times guys will bust a tip top, or they'll bust a rear section or something like that, bust a guide off. In that case, come on in, ship it in. We can likely, you know, if it's a guide, you're looking at $20-$30 to replace it. If you're looking at a new tip section, maybe $75-$80. So it really depends. We're happy to work with you, happy to get you back on the river again. We're all fishermen, and we know how much breaking gear sucks, and it does happen. So we like to make sure that everyone's well taken care of and not a lot of downtime is had. So
to expand on that, Nate, my 2-piece rods. So, you know, knock on wood, if I break the top section of one of my lake trout jigging rods,
mm-hmm.
Can you just send me another tip, or are those 2 pieces married? Are those 2 pieces married together, or will one tip fit another rod?
We don't recommend just sending a new tip. They are married in a sense. Each part is a little bit, we like to roll as similar as possible, but they're all a little different. I mean, hand sanded, hand rolled, there's going to be little tiny variances. So matching up the tip to the butt section is huge. In a pinch, it will work. It will void your warranty moving forward because it's a part that was designed on it. But we have done it in the past for guides like you know, fishing guides. They can't send it out. They're looking to have it in 2-3 days. We can we can definitely do that. But best case scenario, send us in the tip or send us in the butt. We'll marry a new part to it that matches it specifically, and then we'll send the whole rod back to you as one new piece.
Gotcha. That way it's a matched pair.
Yes,
I guess.
Exactly. Emergency situation, we'll take care of you, but otherwise we like to do it that way.
Yeah, I don't. Like I said, knock on wood, it's not going to happen anytime in the next
and they will
seasons.
still match up. It just won't be a perfect fit. We call it a knock. It's when you grab that ferrule there, and if you wiggle the rod back and forth, you'll feel just a little bit of play in that jointage.
Right.
We don't like that. We like to have we call no knock. So if it's joined perfectly, you won't have any little bit of play in there. A lot of rod companies aren't as stingy about that. A lot of rod companies say a little bit of play is fine. If you go to a Bi-Mart or Cabela's, you pick up a rod off the shelf, 95% of them are going to knock at that ferrule. They still fish. It's mainly an aesthetic thing and just kind of a higher quality thing. So
you don't just push them together harder.
And then I just take hot glue and I just hot glue the whole thing, and then duct tape, and you're repaired. You're ready to fish.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Put a pencil in the middle for strength. It'll be.
The float fishing for springers is not my forte. It's something that I've slowly getting into here. What rod do you like? Is it the 1025? I think is what I have. Is that the entry rod that will do a lot of different float sizes?
Yeah, so I'm a bit of a float freak. I love watching those bobbers drain. So the 1025 is definitely my go-to rod. I use it for both spring float fishing and fall float fishing, Chinook. It's a 10-foot 2. It's 12 to 25 power, but you can definitely go treat it more like a 12 to 30. It's a great rod. It has the length. You can get big mends and big cast on there. I'll fish anywhere from a 1/2 ounce in the fall and my smaller coastal tributaries to, 2, sometimes a 3 ounce cannonball under a 3 ounce Bomac in the spring when I'm fishing big eddies and stuff. Right. Beyond that, a lot of guys don't like that length, or if you're just starting off, a 10-foot rod can definitely be intimidating to some guys, especially when you got a 2 ounce weight on it. In that case, I recommend, once again, we touched on it already, our SM 965 or 967. Those are great float rods for guys that want a little bit shorter at 9.6, but still want a real solid float rod. Those are another great option to have as well.
Okay.
We had a question, Nate. What would you recommend for a creek or small river for trout? What kind of rod?
For a creek or small river for trout, that 6.62 can be really good. The 711, I have a lot of guys using that as a pack rod. It's real lightweight, real finesse. You're looking to float an earthworm or a bobber, something like that, or maybe a trout magnet. Those work real well. We are working on expanding our trout lineup. So you're looking at an 8.6 in the near future, a 9-foot, and possibly even a 7.6. So we really want to start to cater that ultralight fishery, that small stream fishery that a lot of guys are starting to get into more and more. So, but we definitely, the 711 would be good to look at, or the 6.62. I got guys using those for trout, and they like them a lot.
Could that 711 or one of those newer ones you guys are looking at also double for like a summer steelhead rod if somebody was trying to do both?
Definitely. And we do have some lighter, I have a 7'9" steelhead rod that would work real good for like coastal bluebacks and stuff like that. If you're looking to get a little bit, higher caliber of trout, or on the Deschutes, SS 904 would be another option. It's a little longer than traditional trout rod at 9 foot, but it's like a 6 to 10. So it's real lightweight. You can get out in that eddy a little further. You can make longer casts, little tiny 1/4 ounce spoons. It'll do it perfectly.
Nice.
A little of everything.
Okay. Well, I don't have much else for you guys. I guess, Nate, one question I did have, what separates Stryker Rods from like a G. Loomis or a Lamb Glass? If somebody was just going in the store, what's going to set you guys apart from those other brands?
So we really wanted to rename and rebrand ourselves, top of the line components, top of the line customer service, high end stuff. So all of our grips are made in the USA. All of our blanks are made in the USA. We're doing everything under one roof, and just really bringing that customer service, personal element to the table is what I believe sets us apart. At the end of the day, we're all fishermen. We're all in the same boat. We all just want to get out, work, and go to the river. So we understand that what goes into the process, what guys are looking for, call us, Instagram, Facebook. We try to respond pretty quick. If you're looking to get something built, we don't have it. You're usually looking at a 2 to 3 week turnaround. I know a lot of these bigger companies are looking at 6 months, 7 months. If you're looking to get a rod warranted, you're looking at a year. And that's even if they can get a hold of anybody. It's usually first or third ring around here. There's someone always sitting at their desk ready to talk fishing. So I think with us, you're getting a high-end rod that this industry hasn't seen for a while. It's made locally in the USA. You're supporting a local business, and we'd love to help you out and talk fishing, and just whatever you need, we're here for you. So really building that family atmosphere. We're more than just a rod company. We're a lifestyle.
Todd, did you have anything else for Nate tonight?
Nope, that's about it. That's obviously I got a trip with the boys. Got some exciting rods coming down to me when I get back down in my drift boat, and so we'll let that cat out of the bag here in future talks.
Keep an eyes peeled. We're planning on launching some new stuff and possibly a sale in the near future. So always keep an eye out. Check our page. Check Instagram. We like to keep everyone up to date. So,
do you guys have a guide program?
We do. So all certified, registered guides, and anywhere can get up to a 25% discount. We do ask, feature us in your post, tag us, reach us out, tell us what you think of the rods. We need feedback. We that's what helps us grow. So, but yeah, we do. And if you're anyone interested in joining that, feel free to give us a call and ask for either Nate or Josh. He's our other salesman, and he'd be happy to talk with you and see what your program is and getting you hooked up with some rods for sure.
Nice. And then where can we find you guys? Are you guys in pretty much stores throughout the Northwest, or do you have to order online?
So we're in a few stores right now. If you're in the Eugene area, we do have a lineup in Oregon, Rod, Reel, and Tackle. England Marine Supply has a line of our saltwater rods up and down the coast. So if you're looking to see some saltwater stuff, that can be a really good way to see them. If you're in the Clackamas area, coming up this week, Portland Marine Electronics, they're getting a line of our CTs in there to display with their showroom. So when you come in and get a finished boat and you're looking to get a electronic system put on, you can check out some rods and outfit with that. Beyond that, RMI in Northern California, they have a small amount of our rods in store. So if you're in that Northern California area and you're looking to check out some rods, that would definitely be a good place to go. Beyond that, nothing at the moment. We're looking at some stores right now. We definitely have some stuff in the works, but kind of trying to keep it small, direct to consumer, or working with smaller local companies for sure. We don't really want to be a big box distributor at this point. So
awesome. Well, thanks for joining us tonight, Nate. I hope it was super insightful for everybody tuning in and for anybody watching this later. What's the website for you guys?
So we're at www.strykerrods.us is our website. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook. That's the best way to reach out usually.
Awesome. All right. Well, everybody.
And
go ahead.
Hold on. Are all your models on your website, Nate? Do you have some stuff that you offer that's not on the website yet, or?
We do have some stuff that's not on the website. It will be updated here in the next coming weeks. We're just really trying to finalize the website and kind of hopefully get a little bit of a redesign in. What I tell most people is if you don't see it on the website, just call. Shoot us an Instagram message, shoot us an email, Nate@StrykerRods.us, sales@StrykerRods.us. Those are both great emails. You got a question, hey, I see, I'm looking for this, someone this, in all likelihood, I have something close in the R&D phase at some point, and maybe you'll be lucky and we can send a sample to try out because we need feedback. So definitely don't be afraid to ask if you don't see what you're looking for, because we can probably create it or have it.
And then typically, I know how fast I get my rods. That's the
you're not supposed to tell people that though.
Well, but typically, if you have the rods built, I think my rods are at my door in 2 or 3 days. That's one of the.
We like to keep everything in stock. We walk through our inventory room daily, and if there's a bin that's getting close, less than 3, we'll put in an order for it, so you guys aren't waiting. 95% of the time, if the orders are placed before noon, they're going out that day. Right. And if you're in Oregon, you're looking at 1 to 2 days. Northern California, Southern California, you're looking at 2 to 3. Washington, about the same, and beyond there, probably about 4 to 5 days. But granted, a very quick turnaround compared to what I've been hearing. Some other guys are waiting for their rods. So
absolutely,
we don't like making you wait. That's the worst part after you buy it. We know that.
No.
And a lot of times too, we'll throw in stickers, promo stuff as well. We like to sweeten the pot a little bit, make sure you're all swagged up. So we're doing a lot of new merch stuff too. So if you're looking to get some sweet new swag, keep an eye out. Dropping those here in the next week or so and putting them on the website. So keep an eye out for sure.
Awesome. Well, Nate, before we let you get out of here, we always end our episodes by asking our guests for a piece of alpha. So what's your best piece of advice you got for our viewers turning in tonight? Could be fishing, could be life, whatever you want to give.
Let them eat. Be patient. Whether it's trolling, whether it's float fishing, whether it's your girlfriend at dinner, let them eat. Don't bother them. Just take your time. There's no need to rush yourself. Enjoy the moment. That's why I tell people. People get all worked up. They rush. They think, I got to get out there. I got to make the first cast. I got to have the best bait. Just those fish can tell. Just get out there, relax, get yourself in a comfortable state of mind, get yourself to where you're happy, and just have fun, enjoy it. We are so lucky to live where we live that every trip is a blessing,
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Todd, you got a piece of alpha for anybody?
I do. It's not fishing. It's I really encourage people to live in the present. Let the present absorb every aspect of where you are and what you're doing, and let tomorrow worry about tomorrow. So much of our life is hectic and chaotic. When you allow yourself time to be on vacation or try to disconnect, really fight the urge and just be present, because and it piggybacks off what Nate said. The fish know. It just be in the moment, let the day be what it's going to be, not try to force any aspect of it.
Well said.
Yeah, I like it. Mine kind of goes off of yours as well. And mine tonight was just go fishing. There's so many awesome opportunities right now. Go disconnect, go take some time for yourself, and just get out there right now.
Yeah.
August and September is best time in the Pacific Northwest.
Agreed. Yeah.
All right, everybody.
It's not February.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Not for
everybody. Coming on and spending some time with us tonight, Nate.
Yeah, of course.
No, I said it's not February.
Not February.
I think February might be pretty up there for me. But no, Nate, I want to say thank you very much. I really do appreciate everything that you guys do for me, and I'm really blessed to be part of the Stryker family, and look forward to many more exciting trips. And so thank you very much.
A lot to come, so thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and everybody tuning in tonight, thank you for watching, and hopefully you found a lot of information from tonight's podcast. And if you ever like to talk fishing, we've got a link in the description for our Discord. Jump on in there. You can talk with Todd. We're going to get Nate in there talking fishing rods. And we got a bunch of other people from throughout the Pacific Northwest that just like to talk fishing. So come hang out and join the family.
Absolutely.
Have a good night.
Have a good night.
Thanks, guys.